Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Save big during Labor Day at Lowe's. Get up to 40% off select major appliances. Plus, buy more to get up to an additional 20% off. Shop even more savings with 3 Stay Green 1 cubic foot vegetable and flower garden soil bags for $10. This Labor Day, take care of your home for less at Lowe's. We help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
You're essentially investing in your future because you know it's the right thing to do. So why wouldn't you invest in your business? One of the same ways you invest in your 401k, your retirement. And that's how we look at SEO. It's a game of delayed gratification. But it's the same reason we all work out and we eat healthy. I mean, it's not an overnight thing, but you look back and you're like, damn, I wish I did this. Like, I'm glad that I started when I did. And it's the same thing with SEO.
Step into the world of success with Your Brand Amplified, the ultimate podcast designed to unravel the intricacies of thriving businesses. I'm your host, Annika Jackson, and I'm on a mission to uncover the stories, strategies, and secrets that have propelled entrepreneurs and business leaders to success. This is not going to be just another SEO conversation. I'm really excited to have Stephen Schneider here. You are the founder of TrioSEO, and you have found your way accidentally into having a great career in performance marketing and SEO. What's interesting is a lot of people who come on the show have been in it since the early days of Google. So their perspective is very different than the one you're going to bring, and I'm excited to hear your fresh perspective. So thank you for being here, Stephen.
Yes, thank you for having me. It should be a fun conversation.
Yeah. So how did you accidentally get into this world?
Yeah, so I stumbled upon it while I was in college, and I didn't really have a plan. I think like most people at that age are just kind of coasting through, jumping the hoops. And I was studying finance at the time and was just planning to sell my soul and go into VC banking and hate my life for the next 40 years and cash out. And so that was just a very brutal path that I kind of knew was bound to happen. Thankfully, that was not the case. But my good friend in college told me one day that he was building websites on the side and was making upwards of like 10 to 15 grand a month while in college. And my ears perked up because I just had never even thought that was a concept. I had never heard of SEO. I didn't know you could even own a website. Like that was just such a new concept to me. And yeah, he was building these micro niche websites in the Amazon affiliate kind of Wild West era and using Google traffic to drive clicks to Amazon. And kind of the secret sauce that many people don't know about that is regardless of whether you make the sale, anything that the customer buys within 24 hours, even if it's for personal use, say they put in a laundry order or a grocery order, you get commissions on that as well because you sent them there. So it was a very lucrative and fun game, and we scaled that to a portfolio of about 40 websites and 7 figures. And yeah, it was definitely a right place, right time way to learn SEO.
100%. And so you got to really learn what was working at that moment in time, right? We know things keep evolving in this world, and whether it's with your own website or Google search or every other kind of search that we're looking at now, from YouTube to TikTok to LLMs. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you continued down that path. I mean, imagine you did finish your degree in finance.
I did.
like, so that you at least had that.
Yeah.
And I do think that's probably pretty helpful for you to look at analytics and to think about strategy from a different point of view than somebody who's just coming into it from the marketing side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I always joke that the only kind of good skill I have is I can get my way around a spreadsheet pretty easily. I was forced to do so many ridiculous equations and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely seen a lot of SEO evolution and kind of being able to trudge through the ups and downs of what that looks like. I mean, we were riding our highest peak in the business through COVID. And then we got hit with 3 Black Swan events, which eventually led to the demise of that first company. But sometimes you have to touch the stove to know it's hot in certain places. And there were so many good lessons along the way. And I often say that it's so much easier to fail on your own websites than it is a client's website and an established brand for sure.
Right.
And so some of my biggest lessons were on the first websites I ever built in college, just knowing like, oh, okay, we'll never do that again. Like that was a really easy lesson to learn. And it was just a great experience. But yeah, there's so much to learn in that space.
I appreciate that you said Black Swan because I do teach my students at USC, the master's programs, about black swans and gray rhinos. And that's, in a communication school, that's not something you usually talk about because that is very much a business school concept. So I'd love to hear, if you don't mind sharing, what were those black swans?
Yes. So it was 3 and 30 days, unfortunately. So I don't know if that's a true black swan, but it crushed us. So yeah, the first one was COVID. I don't think anybody predicted that and just how the economy shook out overall. And then the next one was that Google had released an algorithm update that was specific to product review websites. So top 10 best of articles, which was 99% of our entire business. And so yeah, every site that was kind of in that bucket just automatically got destroyed. You can't play that playbook anymore or run that game. And so that was the next one. And then around the COVID time of when everything started shaking out, Amazon had put out a release that they were cutting their commission rates by about 50%. And so, yeah, it was just like bam, bam, bam. And we knew that the entire business was on a very like right place, right time trajectory. It was not a sustainable path. And we were kind of testing things. But from what we thought was going to be a 5 to 10 year runway turned into a 2 to 3 year runway. And so we had to pivot and think quick and kind of think on our feet.
And is this where you decided to look at all of those websites and blogs as an asset class?
Similarly. So yeah, you're talking about like in terms of the sales or?
Yes.
Yeah. So our entire business model up to that point was hold each site for cash flow in order to keep the business going and then reinvest those profits into new websites through acquisitions or to sell them. And you can sell websites for like a 30 to 40x multiple on the profit of EBITDA, just like you would at business elsewhere. So it was kind of like a buy, hold, acquire strategy, just like you would with any kind of like VC or, startup or kind of path that way. So yeah, we kind of looked to sell off some sites, some that stayed alive. We obviously kept those for cash flow to keep team expenses up and payroll and all that sort of stuff because we had about 30 team members at that time. We were publishing 300 to 400 articles on a monthly basis. So yeah, it was a pretty large scale operation. So we really had to kind of pivot pretty quickly.
Yeah. Some questions about that. But before we get into those questions and human centeredness versus AI, what did you do for your next business? Did the same group of you go into?
Yeah, that's a good question. So what happened is like, we kind of knew that like things were shifting in the business. And yeah, I still am such good friends with those guys. I literally just got the phone with someone, like one of those guys before this call, just catching up. And I kind of just decided it was a good move for me to like de-risk and step away and kind of figure out what was next. And so I did that. I took a full year off just to kind of coast and digress and kind of like take a breather because it was such a grind for that point. It was like 12, 16-hour days and just long days. So I kind of took that time off and then was like, okay, well, what else am I going to do? Go find a real job. And I hated every single second of it. Like I was entrepreneur in my blood and bones. And so I quit with no plan after 6 months and just kind of like threw in the towel and said, I will literally die before I go back and do that. So like, let's just start consulting. I'll start building, like figure it out. And just as the universe has a way, very serendipitously, I met my now co-founders at Trio just through LinkedIn and networking. Like I knew that LinkedIn was a very up and coming place for personal branding. I just had this really strong gut feeling to continue creating content and build a personal brand. And I started from scratch and have a pretty decent sized audience now and a lot of connections and good opportunities in that space. And that was where Trio started. Like I just kind of met those guys through a cold coffee call, and one thing led to another. We clicked and vibed, and DMs turned into phone calls, and that's where we started.
Amazing. I love that story because I have a high success rate, I feel like, on LinkedIn. I don't do a lot of cold outreach. I don't like it when people are overly salesy, but I've had a lot of great opportunities come out of that when people are actually genuine, want to have conversations and really connect.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I've met some of my greatest friends are now just random internet strangers that I met through LinkedIn. And yeah, I'm going to a conference next week to actually meet up with a couple of them and, just retouch. It's always fun to meet internet people in real life and kind of continue that friendship.
Yeah. So talk to us about this business partnership. Since this started cold and developed into a friendship and a business relationship, and now you're all in business together. Talk to us about that whole pipeline.
Yeah. So my partners are Connor Gillivan and Nathan Hirsch. They're two very successful entrepreneurs. And Connor is one of the top SEOs on LinkedIn. And so I kind of naturally gravitated toward his content. And he was kind of one of the first evolution of content creators. So like his following now is amassed like over 100,000 plus on LinkedIn. And I kind of got a good vibe from him. Like, when we first met, it was just kind of like had a talk, and then he kind of was like, hey, here's my number, like text me whenever. And I met his other partner, Nathan, and they had both just come off of an exit. They had built FreeUp, which was a Upwork-esque, Fiverr-esque marketplace for very specialized talent. And they scaled that from a $5,000 investment to 12 million ARR in 4 years, all through SEO.
Wow.
And so we just had this really big overlap in our worlds similarly, and kind of our skill set and scaling and growing businesses. And so just kind of after like 6 months of texting, I was talking to Connor one day and I was like, why don't you guys have an SEO agency? Like, this is such a natural fit between who you guys are, what you're doing, all this sort of stuff. And they're like, oh no, we have it all mapped out. Like we have a 20-page marketing document of competitor research and sales strategies. And like we fully have this ironed out. We just don't have anybody to run it, and we don't want to run it ourselves. Wow. And so I said, well, I can do that. So I texted my old partners and I said, hey, I'm doing this thing. Do you guys mind if I just bolt our old system into this agency? Because we were already managing 40 websites and 400 articles a month. And I just deleted all the websites and replaced it with clients. And that's kind of how we started it. So I said, well, if you guys can get some beta clients, I said, I could build a system in a weekend. And I'm pretty confident I can run that 2.0. So all you have to do is figure out sales and clients, and we can hit the ground running.
Nice. And how is the dynamic when you're all in different places and figuring out, how to make this all work? Obviously, you each have your piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. So they're both in Denver, Colorado, and I'm in Seattle. So not too far. We've met up a couple times, and we just each play to our strengths. Like Connor is very skilled at marketing. Like that's kind of his forte, and helps me out with like website stuff and marketing stuff, and uses his personal brand to attract more business for us, and just kind of fills in the gaps wherever I need him to kind of be my support system. And Nathan just crushes it at sales. Like he's a beast when it comes to networking. He's been on over like 1,000 podcasts, I think. That's kind of where I got that spark from when it comes to that whole forte. So yeah, I mean, we just kind of each tap into each other, and we have a very good communication dynamic. Like, hey guys, I need help with this. And then they just like, okay, great. And if they can't, they'll figure out how to do it, or they'll figure out somebody who can bring it in. And at this rate, we have a solid team. We have about 10 full-time people and a very, very strong inner circle of people who can kind of tap into different things as needed. But yeah, it's nice when we're friends first and foremost, besides like business partners and married together, essentially in business. That's how it works.
So talk about AI and what your strategy is, because of course I've talked to people or seen stuff on LinkedIn of I create all my content via AI and it's gotten me great SEO, but I'm like, but did it? Did it really? Because I love AI tools, but I don't necessarily think writing an SEO is the best use case. I prefer to get into agents and things that will help with tasks. So I'd love to hear your agency perspective, your personal perspective, how you do or don't use it.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Lowe's has the Labor Day deals you need to give your home a new look. Buy one, get one free select interior paint via Visa gift card rebate. Then, add the final touch with 2 for $8 on select 2.5 or 3-quart mums. Refresh your home and save big while doing it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/3. Mums offer in-store only. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. More terms and restrictions apply. See Lowes.com/rebates for details.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with you on that. We are 100% human written and human edited. We have a very big team of skilled writers and editors in order to ensure that you have that human touch on it and it's all conversationally written and there's not weird jargony like boost sales and, just cringy terms that we all know nowadays because of that. We look at AI as a tool, and I think that's how it should be used, not a replacement for things in order to cut corners. And we always try to communicate that we're boring SEOs. Like, we play by the rules. We know that if you just do the core basic fundamentals over and over again, longer than everyone else, it usually works out. It's just usually patience in SEO. And it's not how quickly can you create content. It's how good of content can you create, because ultimately you're communicating with people, not robots.
Yeah, 100%. And how do you share that with clients? Because I'm sure that if you're hiring humans and you're having humans deliver the content, there are added expenses. A lot of times people are looking at shortcuts versus the intentionality. So I'd love to hear about how you position that to your clients and then what kind of results do you prove to them?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a tough conversation. We literally just had a sales call 2 days ago where they're like, it's a hard price swallow when I can go to ChatGPT and create an article, create 100 articles in that same time. And I just always come back to, I said, yeah, I mean, you could do that, but you also don't have 15 years of experience doing it the right way. So are you looking for a shortcut? Or are you looking to do it the correct way based on, very repeated results and things that have tried and true and tested over thousands of articles and thousands of, hours of doing this. And, personally, I've owned almost 50 websites at this point. And so sure, at some point you can go to ChatGPT, but I literally said to that client, anybody can pick up a hammer and build a house, but we both know the difference between a nice house and an ugly house. So take your pick.
Yeah, true. And what kind of results have you been able to get for clients where they're like, okay, yeah, this was so worth the investment. Let me spend more.
Yeah. So we have found that it's really great when you can mix in tools into the equation, because I can drive all the traffic in the world to any website. I can 4x it a year. But at the end of the day, if your website looks like it's built in 2001, it's not going to work. And the user experience and the conversion has to be a core element of that. And the problem is that many people think SEO is this black magic voodoo solution to all of their marketing problems. And it's not, unfortunately. I wish it was. So what we try to do is incorporate tools on top of that. So we might go and create a calculator that is based in actual keyword data and say, like one of our clients we have a case study on is in the M&A space. So people are going to their site looking for like biotech valuations. Like I think they're ranking first for that. And somebody who goes to that website learning to see what their biotech company is valued at and how to go through that process will see a call to action to go get a free valuation from this calculator. And all they have to do is plug in a couple of numbers and they get the report, but our client also gets that as a lead. So it's a very natural way to keep the user engaged and give them a direct solution to the problem or the query at hand, and then funnel that traffic into a meaningful place.
Yeah, that is a great strategy because you're showing value immediately.
Yep, that's the goal.
One thing that you've mentioned previously is also looking at SEO as a video game. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, funny enough, I used to be like really addicted to video games in college. It was a problem. Like I remember one of my friends messaged me like when I was in college and he's like, hey, there's this like event going on in this game that we used to play. And I was like, okay, I'll play it. And my girlfriend, now wife, was like, are you gonna like, come to bed? It's getting late. And I was like, oh no, you don't understand. Like I'm gonna be up for like 3 days. Like this is like, I can't step away from this thing. And I kind of had to turn that off. And so what I did is I just kind of turned on the game of business and entrepreneurship. And I kind of call that the game, coined from Alex Hormozi, one of my favorite entrepreneurs. But it is true. I mean, there's bosses you have to conquer. There's levels that are hard to compete on. It's a game of patience and takes a lot of hours to do. I mean, anybody who's been in sports knows the same thing. It's like, Steph Curry's one of the best because he's thrown 10,000 free throws. It's like, yeah, of course. And so you put in those 10,000 hours anywhere and that's kind of the same result.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. And you are, like you said, you're based just north of Seattle?
Yeah, about an hour.
Yeah. So do you think that being there in one of the hubs and centers of obviously Microsoft, Amazon, a lot of big businesses that rely pretty heavily on SEO, do you think being there and just kind of being able to be in the mix has helped your framing of the business?
I think so. I think maybe through osmosis of just being more tuned in to tech in general, not through like, going to Microsoft and touring the campus, which some of us have done. But at the same time, it's just more or less the exposure of being aware of video games. And I am a firm believer that people who play video games have a high likelihood of doing great in business. Not only for what I said, but I think that just the decision making and the challenges and the problem solving and the puzzles, I think that mixed with the tech. But I think that Seattleites also have a core strength in that we're trapped inside most of the year because of the rain. So like, what else are you going to do besides do something inside, usually on a computer, or read or do something to benefit the boredom? So yeah, it's an interesting take on that, but for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm curious because there was just a big news splash, at least in my world. I thought it was pretty big, about how Amazon cut their Google shopping budget, which was a lot of money. So, and that they were, they had all the best keywords. They were the number one driver. So that tells me perhaps people are not going to Google Shopping to look for Amazon products anymore. But also it gives an opportunity for smaller organizations, smaller businesses to now be able to compete on Google Shopping. So I'd love to hear your take on that and what you think might be influencing that decision, because that's obviously a big thing in the world of SEO. And then is it just because of the influencers, the creators who are leading people to Amazon? Is it because people are searching through LLMs?
I think it's a little bit of everything. I'm an SEO tried and true, but I think Google is trash. I think that they've completely set themselves on fire when it comes to user experience. And it seems like the board is a little bit more concerned with the P&L than the actual user and the product. And I think that everyone is starting to acknowledge that. But I think from Amazon's point of view, it is an interesting take because there's probably way more direct traffic within the app and people using Amazon as a direct source than trying to funnel traffic elsewhere. But I do see that a lot of potential and a lot of upside for small businesses trying to tap into SEO as an extension of driving traffic from ChatGPT and complexities. And we've integrated that into our service and our analytics as well. as a way for clients to get more exposure and just make sure that's a part of their marketing strategy.
Yeah, that plays right in line with other things like Google traffic being down 35%. And anecdotally, me, like many people, being frustrated when half the first page is their AI overview, and then another half or a quarter of the first page is sponsored before you can even get to organic search. So, yeah.
It's frustrating for sure.
And are you primarily working in organic search?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, organic search is the bread and butter of SEO for sure.
Yeah. Because I know some people who do SEO also go into SEO, social advertising as well, and search engine advertising. So what is the process that you take clients through and that your team works through when it comes to content creation and making sure that you have the right content for the right consumers, the right stakeholders at the right time?
Yeah. So the core thing is really mastering the onboarding process, which I'm biased, but I think we have a pretty good grasp on at this point. What we do is we have some good questionnaires and good forms to really learn the business, the brand, the tone, the messaging, who's the customer, what's the call to action that has worked well in the past, where are we driving traffic? Tons of questions so that we can absorb all of that information. And then we create a brand brief, or essentially like a brand Bible from that sense, that our team uses every step of the way, whether it's in strategy, writing content, editing. It's pretty much their right hand playbook to make sure that we're aligned. And then the big thing is just communication and feedback from the clients. I think that we always tell them, obviously, the business better than we know the business. And we expect there to be some hiccups along the way. If we got this perfect 100% of the time, I'd question everything. And so there's a lot of painful, parts where they come to us, we're like, why isn't this right? It's we're not experts. We're just looking for feedback. Please just help us learn and know that over time we'll get better. But that's part of what makes a successful relationship when it comes to somebody having to write under your brand for the first time. So we just have gone through it and know what it takes. And a lot of those conversations make it easier every time.
What's really striking me about this conversation is that this does feel like in today's world, people want results really quickly. And often companies and organizations forget that it takes time to be intentional. For instance, if you're in PR, really you have to build up. You need to spend the first, 4 to 6 weeks doing deep research, making sure all of the messaging is on point, making sure that the client is ready to be interviewed, making sure you have all the materials that you want to pitch, whether it's that they're writing an article or an editorial, or they're being interviewed, or they're going on a podcast versus, I want to say print, but digital versus broadcast. It's all a little bit different, but people always want to fast track it and they want to see results immediately. And what I'm hearing you saying is kind of back to that older school method of you need to be really intentional. You need to take the time because you are going to get better results later. But that's also a message that not everybody wants to hear or everybody wants to accept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's my biggest pain point when trying to get people to trust us. It's and that's the thing. It's everyone has attention is the most scarce thing in the world nowadays. And money is becoming the second most scarce thing, especially from a B2B stance and budget cuts and the economy and insert the next 100 items there. And I think it's really difficult to tell somebody that most of the best results come 6 months later. And they're like, well, we don't have 6 months. And I say, well, okay, that's unfortunate. And I think the people who are willing to put in the time and energy understand why it's a no-brainer to invest in SEO. And I kind of always tune back into, I'm on a sales call and I'm trying to communicate what we do. And I said, well, do you have a retirement account? And I say, yes. And I said, so why would you stop investing in your retirement account? Would you stop putting money in your 401k right now? And I say, well, what do you mean? I said, well, if you need money now, it'd probably make more sense for you to have an extra $500 in your pocket, right? And the lights kind of start to turn on. And I said, well, you're essentially investing in your future because it's the right thing to do. So why wouldn't you invest in your business? One of the same ways you invest in your 401k, your retirement. And that's how we look at SEO. It's a game of delayed gratification, but it's the same reason we all work out and we eat healthy. I mean, it's not an overnight thing, but you look back and you're like, damn, I wish I did this. I'm glad that I started when I did. And it's the same thing with SEO.
Yeah. This episode is releasing in Q3 2025. People are starting to plan for the next year, the next 2 years, the next 3 years, somewhat because, of course, technology keeps changing. But I'd love to hear a little bit about some of your insights where you see industry going over the next couple of years with these search behaviors that we're seeing, with everybody flocking to other ways of search. And then, how we're going to continue to be able to bring clients into our pipelines while navigating all of these new realities.
Yeah, I have a couple wild takes on this. I'll try to keep it short, but
no, bring them on.
I think that AI and ChatGPT, primarily LLM platforms, are going to just continue exploding in search. I have even started using it more than Google when it comes to just quick answers because it kind of sifts out so much of the noise elsewhere. Like I'm not getting AI overviews and ads and all sorts of stuff. It's just like clean and clear cut. I think that there's a huge advantage to investing in that if you're in a position to do so from an SEO point of view. Like you need the content, you need the authority. The only way to rank in the LLM platforms is through SEO. Like there's no secret snake oil sauce that is only for GEO. It's like you can't have one without the other. So that's the big thing. The other one is going to be socially. So I think that platforms like LinkedIn and Reddit and all of these other places where people can have genuine conversations with one another and get unbiased opinions that are raw and from people who have been there and felt the product and tested it. And, like I'm a huge runner and I just had to buy a headlamp. And where did I go? Reddit, because people have ran 100-mile races with the same headlamp I bought. And I'm like, I want to hear from that person. Yeah. And I think the same thing goes for any customer base. So a lot of the strategies that we're looking to incorporate for our clients actually cover those places and taking point of, okay, how are we working in a Reddit strategy? How are we incorporating LinkedIn content into an off-page SEO strategy? How are we getting more visibility in all these other places? Because we know that it's important to do that, and it all cycles back to the brand.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's important for people just to remember, don't get too caught up in the hype or too overly anxious. I mean, obviously, these are some things that we need to look at, whether it's Quora, Reddit, making sure that our on-page SEO is like really tight. But you also just have to remember the basics of SEO, right? And what you need to be doing to continue trudging along, being the tortoise, not the hare.
Exactly. It all stems back to authority and quality content. Like, don't reinvent the wheel. Just focus on your customers and continue growing your presence elsewhere.
Yeah. So what is next for TrioSEO?
We're just going to keep crushing it for clients. I think that's the biggest thing that we can do. We love just talking to new businesses. And I always joke that I'm kind of a jack of all trades, master of none at this point. Like any niche or any industry, I can, I love diving into the stuff like that. And I think that the AI evolution is going to be huge for us. I think that we'll have we've seen some really good results so far, and people are getting leads from ChatGPT and all these other LLM platforms as a result of that. Like we had a client that just landed a $10,000 upfront deal plus a $2,000 monthly retainer on top of that. And it was straight from ChatGPT. And so when we can hear those conversations from clients come back to us, I mean, that puts a lot of fuel in the tank and gives us some pretty good confidence that we continue doing it over and over again.
Yeah, amazing. And I know that you do have a free SEO audit available on your website.
Yes. It's hand built, hand done by our team. I designed it myself. So it's not like a auto-generated report that's not going to like you can understand it actually. It's not technical jargon. It's, things that make sense for the website, which is like user experience and do you have the core fundamentals for conversion, and then how does that loop into your SEO? So you're more than willing to get that for free, see if it makes sense for us to partner up. And you can go to TrioSEO/audit and fill it out.
Awesome. And we'll just have the link in the show notes as well, so people can just click and get right to you. Stephen, any last words of wisdom you want to share?
The main thing I would say is just for businesses to be a little more patient with their marketing strategies as things develop. I think that those who are willing to not switch gears at a moment's notice will actually outperform a lot of the core players in their space, because everyone is trying to pivot to keep up with the next best thing. And so you do have a big advantage if you just kind of, put your head down and ride the storm. So we'll love to kind of help see that through for many people too.
Yeah, fantastic. And last but not least, do you have a favorite quote, mantra, verse, poem, family motto?
One of my favorite quotes that's really been helping me through a lot of the hard times, I think, is that everyone wants what it looks like, but nobody wants what it feels like. And it's not only good for personal growth, but I think for business as well. It's everyone sees you at the finish line, but forgets to acknowledge that you put in a lot of hours to get there.
Yeah, you have to do the work. There's no shortcut for that. Thank you so much for being here today, for coming on the show, giving us a new take and fresh perspective on the world of SEO. And I appreciate, because again, I'm all for AI tools, but I also think that we have to have a very human-centered approach. And just got back from AI4. Everybody, that was one of the big themes with all of these tech companies. So I love that you're taking this approach to really help people make a difference in their businesses, not just the quick win that has no runway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to everybody who's watching this episode or listening to it as well. I'll be back again with another amazing guest to share their story and their journey very shortly. Until then, have a great day. Thanks for listening or watching to this episode of Your Brand Amplified. Don't forget to leave us a rating or review on your favorite podcast listening platform. And if you want to learn more, check us out at yourbandamplified.com.